Okay, so please take a look at your homework 14, right? And then see if you make any mistake, right? If you, we will just go over two of them first, right? If you still need to go over other ones, you can let me know. Okay, so let's pick number 4. Okay, and then we do the one question that has pi. Okay, so number 5. Okay, if you know how to do 4 and 5 other questions, you should be able to do it, right? So the steps of doing these kind of question is you just follow the examples in the notes, right? So if you look at the notes, first you have to figure out the A and B, right? You find the values of A and B, use the A and B to get the R and S, reflection, stretching, okay? Once you got that, then you get the table, okay? So we did an exercise last time as well, right? Finding A and B, okay? So let's try that here. Okay, so what's the values of A and B you have? Evan? For question 4,
-4.
-4, yeah. And B, what about B?
3/2.
Very good. Okay, 3/2. Okay, once we got that, we can start talking about our reflection. For the S, we have amplitude, right? We have the period. And then we have size of space. Okay. And then T is just none, right? Translation is none. Okay, so let's start with the reflection. For number 4, okay, Jenny, what's the reflection? Do we have any?
Is it over X?
Yeah, very good. Okay, reflect over x-axis. Right, you need to write, this is part of your answer, okay? You need to write down the story for the function, okay? There's a reflection over x-axis because you have a negative, okay, on the A. Okay. Right, and then we have amplitude. Okay, next part we talk about the amplitude. Marcus, what's the amplitude for this question?
4.
Very good. Okay, amplitude, you look at the value of A, but without the negative. Okay, so even though A is -4, but amplitude is just 4. Okay, next one, we need to get the period. Callum, what's the period for this question?
4 pi divided by, no, times it by 2/3.
You need to take 2 pi, okay? Not 4 pi, 2 pi divided by the B. What's the B?
3/2.
Yeah, okay, 2 pi divided by 3/2. Make sure your 3/2 is in the absolute value. Okay, 2 pi divided by 3/2. Can you calculate that? What would that equal to? Caleb?
4/3.
4/3. Where's the pi go?
Pi, yeah. 4/3 pi.
Yeah, so 4.
Wait, Jason, how did you get the 2 though?
Where?
The 2 pi. Where did you get the 2 pi from?
2 pi is the original period. For the basic graph, it's always
Oh, okay.
2 pi. So this is like a formula. Whenever you want to get a period, it's always 2 pi divided by b. Okay, Caleb?
Okay.
Okay, can you continue? Don't turn off your mic. Okay, can you continue? Get the SOS. How do we find that?
4 pi over 3 divided by 1 over 4.
Divided by 4, not divided by 1 over 4. Okay, divided by 4, because you want to cut into 4 equal parts. Okay, so that's probably why you got the x values wrong. Okay, so what would that equal?
4 pi over 3 times it by 1 over 4,
1.
which is 4 over 12, which is 1/3. So 1/3 pi.
Yeah, so we can write it as pi over 3. Okay, so that means each value in the x table, right, it's always pi over 3 apart.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so that's all for the story, right? No translation. So we're ready to roll, right? We're ready to get our table. Okay, and Waylon, how do you find the x values in the tables?
Just start from 0 and keep adding the SOS.
Yeah, what's the SOS here?
Pi over 3.
Yeah, can you tell me what will be the next one then?
Pi over 3.
Mm-hmm.
2 pi over 3.
Mm-hmm.
Pi.
Yeah,
And then 4 pi over 3.
very good. Okay, so you can see from the beginning point 0 to 4 pi over 3, this distance should be your period. Right? Period is 4 pi over 3 because it starts from 0. So your last point will be your period. Okay, if it's not shifted. Now to get the y values. Okay, Jocelyn, how do we find the y values? Do you know? Jocelyn? Jocelyn, are you there?
I forgot.
Okay, you need to multiply the original cosine point by the a. Okay, the basic values for cosine. So do you know the y value for cosine for the basic?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the first y value for cosine?
0.
Cosine should start with 1. Okay, we're talking about the y values. Do you know where to find it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's after that? What's the next one? In fact, you don't need to find it. You should have memorized it. I help you remember it, right? You have cosine, start with 1, and then what's after 1? Right, you look at this cross, angles on the axis. Do you know what it is?
Uh,
After 1 should be what?
0,
Yeah, so you put 0, and then after 0,
-1,
yeah, and then
0, and 1.
yeah, 0 and 1. Now you take these values and multiply by a. What's the value for a?
4.
-4.
Yeah.
Okay, so each of them you multiply by -4. Can you tell me the new numbers?
4,
1
0.
-4 is -4. Okay, times it
yeah.
by -4. All right, second one,
0,
and then
+4.
yeah, good.
0,
And
and
then
-4.
yeah, okay. So that's how you get the y value. You need to look at whether we are using cosine or sine. Okay, if it's cosine, you start with 1. If it's sine, it starts with 0. Okay, so everyone also check your table. Okay, I'll be looking for the numbers in your table. Don't turn the power 3 into decimals. Okay, leave it as power 3. All right, so now we can start making the scale, okay, on the graph. So you use your ruler. The y value is easier, right? You have integers, right? So highest is at 4, so you just divide it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Lowest is at -4. Okay. And then because the space is over 3, right? Pi over 3. So you can say, I want the pi to be this far. You can decide. It doesn't have to be, just don't make it too small, right? So easier to see the points. And then you know the pi is there. And then pi over 3 means you need to cut the pi into 3 equal parts. So like that. So then you have a space of pi over 3. 2 pi over 3, right? 4 pi over 3. And then you just follow the table, right? Follow the table, plot the points, make sure you curve the lines. Okay, so that's for number 4. We'll look at one more. Okay, then we'll start today's lesson. Okay, so number 5 is y equal to negative sine pi x. Okay, let me shrink the top part. Okay, does anyone have a question about number 4? Okay, we'll look at number 5. Okay, we'll start with A and B, right? Okay, Eric, what's the value for A and B?
A is -1 and B is pi, right?
Very good. Okay, A is -1, B is pi. Okay, and Claire, what do we do next?
Wait.
After we found the A and B, what's the next thing we need to do?
We find the reflection.
Yeah, what's the reflection? Do we have any?
Yeah, for A, it's wait. Reflection over the x-axis.
Yeah, very good. Okay, reflect over x-axis. Okay, you'll get the x-axis reflection if A is negative. All right. Now we move on to the S. Okay, for the S we have amplitude, right? We have have the period. We have size of space. Okay. So Caleb, can you try this one again? What's the amplitude here?
1.
Very good. Period.
Um, 2 pi divided by pi,
Equals.
2.
Yeah. And then
2 divided by 4, which is just 1/2.
yeah, very good. Okay, so that's all we need, right? We have amplitude of 1, period of 2, size of space 1/2, right? 1/2 or 0.5. Okay. Easier, right? The pi disappear, makes it easier to draw the table, right? To get the values. Okay, so now let's get the x value and y values. Let's start with the x values. Okay, Lily, how do we do the x values?
The x is 0, 2,
2? Why? Why 2?
wait, no. 1.5.
1/2, you mean?
Yeah, 1/2.
Okay, yeah. And then?
1,
And then?
1.5,
1.5, yeah.
and 2.
Yes, okay. So if you like, you can turn it into decimal, right? If you don't like fraction very much, you can use 0.5, right? 1.5, easier. Okay, now for the y values. Jenny, what's the y value? How do we do y values?
I don't remember.
You have to look at the question, right? Are we using the sine or cosine here?
We're using sine.
Okay, so you need to look at the basic points. What are the basic y values for sine?
1, 0, negative 1, 0, 1,
No, that's for cosine.
0, 1, 0, negative 1, 0.
Yeah. Okay, so better check your work. Okay, all the questions. Now, once you got the basic, you need to take all the basic points, times it by the a. What's the a here?
Negative 1.
Okay, so you take every single one of them, multiply by a. What do you get?
0, negative 1, 0, 1, 0.
0, 1, 0. Okay, so that will be your new y values. Okay, so different rules for x and y. For x, you look at size of space. For y, you have to look at the a. Okay, once you got that, you set your scales right on the graph by yourself. This one is pretty easy because there's no pi, right? So you can just do a regular scale, like 1 here, 2 here, and divide, right? And highest is at 1, lowest is at -1, and plot the point. Okay, so please complete this homework, okay? Right, corrections, if you have any mistakes you think you need to correct, look over your 6 questions. Make sure your curve, okay, you need to show the curve, show the curvature. No straight lines, right? For example, like this graph they showed you, right? Every single place is a curved line. You can see very clearly where the bending is, right? Okay, so if you are ready to move on to translation, you can raise your hand. Okay, Caleb, Claire, Eric, and Jenny, do you have any specific questions want to go over? Caleb? Okay, right, so today we're going to add in the translation, okay? Translation means you are shifting. So the rules for getting the X and Y value will be a little bit different, okay? We need to add in something, okay? So you need to know how to do your question 1 to 6, right? In order to add in translation. So let's look at page 50, right? So everyone, please turn to page 50. So instead of just getting values for A and B, for translation, we will have C and D. Okay, so C and D controls the translation. Okay, you either translate it to the left and right or up and down. Okay, so let's review this basic sine graph first, right? So this is for the basic. You need to pay attention which basic you are dealing with, right? Sine. Right, so for the basic values, you have to remember for sine, right? You can use something I told you before, right? For sine, it will have 1 and -1 in the middle, right? 0, 0, right? So you remember the points. So it'll be starting from 0, 1, 0, -1, 1. That's the basic. For the x values, it's always the same. Okay, the basic is 0 power 2 pi 3 power 2 2 pi. Right, so I'll let you draw the basic graph first. Okay, after you got a basic graph, please raise your hand.
Jason,
Yeah, Nick.
shouldn't it be 1, 0 instead of 1?
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I wrote a 1. Okay, yes, thank you, Nick. Okay, so we have 0 in the middle, right? Pi here. So between 0 and pi has to be pi over 2. Okay, so you can just show 0, pi, 2 pi. Okay, and then the y-axis, just regular 1 and 2. Okay, so 0, 0, pi over 2, 1, right? Go down, go up. So please do not draw straight lines, right? Curve opens down, kind of like parabola, right? Opens up. Okay, please raise your hand if you're done the basic. Okay. Now to get the A, B, C, D, I think the A and B, you guys are good at it, right? So to get a C and D, right, you need to know the form. Okay, you see on the top, I give you this symbol here, right? A, B, C, D, that's where the A, B, C, D are located. But then there's an F, right? The F is representing the function. So in general, so it could be sine, okay? Could be cosine, could be tangent, okay? We haven't seen anything about tangent yet. So right now the F is just saying it's a function, okay? You can write it down, function. So function could be either sine function, right? Or cosine function. Okay, just saying in general. So for this question, it's a sine function, right? So that means our function will look like this. Our form, okay, ABCD form will look like this. A and then sine, right? Instead of F, and B will be here, X minus C bracket plus D. Okay, so A is this one, B is here. Okay, remember the location, right? C, D. Okay, you can copy this down first. And then you will compare this one. Okay. The one I put a box around, right? Compare that with the question. Okay, to figure out what should be the ABCD. Okay, once you found out the values for ABCD, please raise your hand. Okay, we'll check if you got it right. Compare the two purple box, okay, to figure out what's the value for ABCD. Okay, raise your hand once you have your ABCD. Okay, Susan, what's your A?
-2.
Yep, -2 is correct. Okay, in the very front, right? Whatever you see in front of sign. And value for B, Lily.
Zero.
If B is 0, right? Let's say if I put 0 into here, right? I put a 0 there. That means the X will multiply by 0 as well. The X will disappear.
1.
Yeah, okay, so B should be 1. It's an invisible 1, right? You put the 1 there or you don't put it there, it's the same thing. Okay, so B is 1, okay, for this question. All right, so B is 1. Okay, and then value for C. Okay, Nick, what do you think? What's the value for C?
I put pi.
Pi. Okay, so let's think about if it works, right? If I put pi, right, let me draw the arrow there, right? If the C is pi, if I replace C with pi, then in the bracket, it will look like X minus pi. Right? Inside the bracket, it will be X minus pi. Is that what we have in the question, Nick?
Yeah.
The question has what?
Negative pi. Negative pi.
Yes, okay. The bracket has X plus pi. So in order to have a plus pi, you need to sub in negative pi for the C, right? So you have X subtract negative pi become X plus pi. Minus and negative will become plus. Okay, so C is very tricky. Okay, you need to put a star there. Whatever in the bracket, right? If you see a plus 3, then C should be -3. Here you see a plus pi, but then C is negative pi. Okay, only the C is more tricky. Okay, question now for D, value for D, Jenny.
-1.
Yeah, okay. D is whatever you see behind the bracket, okay? The very last number. Okay, that's all. Okay, we got our most important thing because it affects everything else. All right, so we have our ABCD. We can start to write the R, S, and T. The R, S, and SOS, okay, and those are the old stuff. I'll let you guys complete that. translation, we'll talk about it together. So if you finish the reflection and size of space and amplitude period, okay, please raise your hand. You do that by yourself. Amplitude, period, size of space. Okay, please fill out R and S and raise your hand. Okay, Eric, what's the R?
It's over the x-axis, right?
Yeah, over x-axis. Okay, because A is negative. Right, next part, Waylon, amplitude,
I got 2.
2, very good, okay. So you need to make the A positive, you get the amplitude. Okay, and Caleb, period.
Pi over 2.
How did you get that?
Period. No, 2 pi.
2 pi divided by,
1.
yeah, so it doesn't change, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then size of space as well.
2 pi divided by 4, which
Which
is
is-
just half pi.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so everyone should got these ones correct, okay? Now to get a translation, okay, so we cannot do the table of values yet, okay?
Wait, Jason,
Yeah,
if it's 2 pi over 4, shouldn't it be pi over 2 instead of pi over 4?
that's correct, okay? You're paying attention, good job. Okay, translation. Okay, translation, we need to look at C and D, okay? So if you look at the form, the C is inside a bracket with X. So it has to do with the X values, okay? So it has to do with horizontal because X goes horizontal. Make sense? So C is controlling the X values. And then D will be controlling the Y values. Now, since the C is negative pi, negative means moving to the left, right? Because C is either left or right, but if it's negative, it will move to the left. So go left by pi, okay? But we don't say that in trigonometry. Of course, that's what it means, right? But the way to state that, okay? The term they use something different, okay? So you can write this down first, okay? We're moving left by pi, because c is negative pi, but instead we'll say is has a shift, phase shift of negative pi. Okay, so do not write left by pi. Okay, when you answer the homework, right, use phase shift of negative pi. Right, so because the later on sometimes they will say, okay, this graph has a phase shift of 3. Okay, if phase shift is 3, because 3 is positive, so that means it will be moving to the right by 3. Okay, so the left and right is depending on whether it's positive or negative. Any questions so far? Okay, just a new term, okay, to learn. Now for the d is -1, right? D is -1, that means it's moving down, okay? Because d is controlling the y. Okay, this is for x. This is for the y. Okay, so it's negative, so that means it will go down, right? So we'll say go down by 1, okay? But again, we don't use this when we describe, okay? We have a new term. So we'll call it vertical displacement. Okay, vertical displacement of, because it's going down, right? So we just say -1. Okay, new names. Just like when you learn amplitude, period, size of space, okay? These are just for the trigonometry. Okay, can you raise your hand once you got everything down here? And then we'll start to make the table, right? So please raise your hand if you copy down everything here. Okay, Justin, have you copied it? Justin? Okay, all right, so now for the table, okay? So since we just reviewed 2 questions in the homework, right? So for the x values, remember we always start with 0, right? And then we use the size of space to keep on adding, right? Moving to the right side, add pi over 2, add pi over 2, and so on. Now, because this graph is being shifted, right? We have a phase shift of negative pi. We're moving to the left. So think about this graph here. We want to shift this to the left by pi over 2. Okay? We're moving that way. Okay, this whole graph is shifted to the left by pi over 2. So your new point should start from there, something like that. Look at the yellow highlighted. Okay, being shifted to the left by pi over 2. So that means your starting point is no longer 0. Okay, So to get the x value, you need to look at negative pi. Look at the c. Okay, so your starting point, you start with c, right? You start with negative pi. It's not from 0 anymore. Once you figure that out, right? Once you know the c, then you take your size of space to get the other ones. Okay, your size of space is pi over 2. So you start from negative pi and you keep on adding pi over 2 because we're going to the right side. Okay, so negative pi plus pi over 2. What would that equal, Philip?
Negative pi.
Negative pi. Negative pi plus pi over 2.
Oh, negative pi over 2.
Yeah, okay. Because my sketch is a bit wrong. Yeah. Okay, should be something like that. So negative pi over 2, keep on going. What's the next one?
0.
Yeah, and then?
Pi over 2.
And then?
Pi.
Yeah. Okay, so you just start from your starting point. The only change is your starting point. Okay, your starting point will be your C value. Okay, so this is your, this is your starting value for X. Okay, everyone got this part? Instead of starting from 0, you start from negative pi and then you use the size of space. Okay, next we're gonna look at the y, right? Remember for the y values, you need to multiply your basic, right? Basic, we already wrote it on the left side, right? Basic. Multiplied by a, right? Our a is negative 2, right? But because there's a shifting down, right? Vertical, we don't say shift, right? Vertical displacement of negative 1. So move down by 1. So the y values, you need to times it by the a. After you multiply by a, okay, we'll use the number, right? The a here is negative 2, right? So negative 2 times it by the y. The y is talking about the basic ones. And then you need to move it down, minus 1. Okay, when you times it by negative 2, it makes it taller, right? It changes the amplitude and then move it down. So you take your original point, each of the single basic point, you do that, okay? So for example, the first one, 0 times negative 2 is still 0, minus 1 will be negative 1. Okay, and then the next one used to be 1, right? Times it by negative 2, so it'll be negative 2, negative 2 minus 1, negative 3. Okay, I'll let you complete the other 3 points and then you can raise your hand or check the other 3, okay? Let me know if you're confused of what to do here. Is there anyone not sure what to do to get a point for the y? Okay, Marcus, what's the next y value?
Isn't it -1?
Very good. And Eric, what's the next one?
Would it be -3 again?
No. Do you know what to do? Eric,
Hold on, is it -9?
do you know what to do? I need to know the
Put
steps.
the y coordinate in the thing, the -2y minus 1, right?
So what's the y value you plug in?
Is it 3?
No. You take your basic points, okay? You look at the table on the left side, right here. We are doing the fourth one, right? What's the fourth y value?
-1.
Yeah, so you plug
So
in the
it would be
-1. What's
-3,
that?
right?
No. Can you keep your mic on, please?
Oh wait, sorry. -1 times -2 is 2, so it's 1.
So it's what?
It's 1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it will be 1. Can you do the next one?
It would be -1.
Yeah. Okay, you take the original one, the basic y, and then plug it into the -2y minus 1. -2 is from the A, okay? The -1 is from the D. Okay? Any question, Jenny and Jocelyn? If you finish the table, please raise your hand. All right, so one more thing I want to mention is if you look at the basic y values, okay, it starts from 0. You can think of 0 as here and then goes up, right? It goes up to 1, so it goes up, right? Goes up and back down to 0, right? And then down to -1 and go up to 0. So you will know the shape is kind of like going this way, the wave, okay? Start from the middle point, right? 0, go up, go down, go down, go up. Now, if you look at the one we are working on, instead of 0, we have -1. And instead of going up, we are going down because we have a reflection, right? -3. And go back up to -1, go up again to 1, go down. Right? You can see the new one is upside down. And that matches our story, right? We should have a reflection over x-axis. So you can get the points this way too, okay? If you know there's a reflection, you know start with -1. Amplitude is 2, right? So you can subtract 2, add a 2, add a 2, subtract 2. Okay, -1 subtract 2, you get -3. Okay, negative, and then you add 2, and then you add a 2, and then you subtract a 2. Okay, so if you have the graph in your head, you can do it differently. Or if you like to follow if you just like to plug in the value, that's fine as well. Okay, just a little bit slower. Okay, so we'll keep the same scale and then plot the points. So just like last time, I'll let you guys do the points, okay? And connect the points with the curve, right? Make sure they are in curve. Please raise your hand, okay, when you finish the graph. Keep your scale the same, okay? So pi is still here, 2 pi. Okay, if you are done the graph, please raise your hand. Okay, just follow the table. Okay, Angela, can you plot the 5 points for us on the screen?
Wait, sorry, I'm not sure how to draw on the screen.
Have you done that before? First time?
I think I was on my iPad, so I don't know how to do it on a laptop.
Laptop, you use the mouse to draw.
Is there a button that I have to find before? Or do I have to click something before?
Yeah, there should be a place for annotation.
Oh.
Found it? Yeah, good. I see your points now. Okay, negative pi, -1.
Do I have to connect them?
No, there's a point. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, right here. Okay, I see it. Okay, down here, back to here. Yeah, okay, very good. I'll connect them. Okay, so make sure the way you connect has to be curved, all right? So this part is open up, and then you have to show that it's open down. Okay, so that's your graph. Anyone has questions? Okay, we're going to make a summary, okay, of what happened here. So then other question, just follow the summary, okay? So now we complete all the 3 transformation, right? Reflection, stretching, right? And translation. So combine everything together. Okay, Helen. Okay, so please turn, if you're ready to go to summary, can you raise your hand? Okay, we'll change the page. Okay, if you all got a graph, all right, please raise your hand. Okay, Marcus, are you done with the graph? Okay. Okay, so we'll look at the summary page. Summary page is on page 52, okay? Page 52 at the bottom. So the key is from function to graph. Function means they either give you a sine function, right, or a cosine function. Remember, in general, right, they give you the f, right? They write it as f. So y equals to a, and then f of b x minus c plus d. And your f can either be sine, right? Sine or cosine or tangent. Okay, but we didn't learn anything about tangent. Tangent looks very different. Okay, so now just focus on sine and cosine. Okay, so that's called a function. So how do we go from function to graph? So writing out in this form, okay, first of all, you need to put it in the form so you can tell the ABCD. Okay, so your step 1 is to change to general form. We call that general form. Okay, general form looks like this: y equal to a f of b x minus c bracket plus d. Okay, function is referring to that. Okay, make sure you copy the brackets correctly, right? So that's your step 1, okay? You need to write it in this form, put them in order. Sometimes they try to mess you up, right? Put the order in different ways, right? Or write fractions. You need to rearrange. Later we have questions like that, okay? So we'll practice how to change. Once you figure out the ABCD, right? Change to general form, find ABCD. Okay, we'll write that down. One second. Okay. Find values of A, B, C, D. Okay, those are together, okay? Count as one step. Once you have that, then you start to get the reflection, right? Reflection. To have reflection, you look for negative signs, okay? Any negative sign. Okay, and then S. S, you have the amplitude. Amplitude is the value of the A, but then you need to ignore the negative sign. So we put absolute value. Okay, and then we have the period. How do we find the period, Jenny?
2 pi divided by b.
2 pi divided by b with what?
Sorry?
Not just b, right? At the bottom, you also need to have,
Absolute value on the b.
yeah, absolute value on b, okay? Meaning you keep the b positive, okay? Because both amplitude and period, they are talking about the length and height. So it cannot be negative. So for amplitude and period, always use positive numbers for A and B. Okay, next thing, we need to get the size of space. Right, how do we find the size of space, Nick?
Divide the period by 4.
Yeah, so what you got just now, right? You found the period, you divide it by 4. Okay, so that's the S part. Now T, translation, what we just learned, right? So translation, we have 2 new words. All right, Marcus, what's inside the translation?
Is it x minus c?
Yeah, has to do with C. And what else?
Isn't it B?
D, right? Plus D, right? But what's the name? C. What's it called?
I forgot.
What did you write it down?
Uh,
The last example we have translation, right? What's in there? What do we write? Instead of left by pi, what do we call it?
I didn't write that part down.
No. If you need more time to copy, you have to let me know. Okay.
Right.
Copy it down. Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. What is it called?
Wait, no, that's not it. Wait, could you move it up a bit more?
Move it up.
Oh, wait, where is it?
Right here.
Oh, phase shift.
Yes. Okay. Please write it down. Is there anything else you didn't write it down?
Yeah, I forgot the vertical displacement part.
Yeah. Okay. Copy those down. Let me know when you're done. Make sure you have a complete notes, okay? Otherwise, you have no reference when you are looking for examples, right?
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, okay, so back to here, right? So what's inside the translation?
Phase shift.
Yeah, phase shift. And phase shift has to do with C or the D.
Isn't it C?
Yeah. And the other one is called
Vertical displacement.
vertical displacement. And it has to do with,
The D.
yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so that's 1 and 2, okay? Step 1, step 2. Okay, Calum, are you back?
Yeah, I'm back. I just finished copying down the notes too.
Okay, you finished everything on the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll look at step 3. After we got the story, what's the third step? Calum, I'm asking you.
Oh, pardon?
What's the third step after you found the RST?
Make a graph.
Before making the graph, you need,
I'm not so sure.
before you draw the points, you need to know the what?
The ABCD.
That's the very first step though. Think about the example we just did, right? We finished the ABCD and we get the RST. What's after we get the RST?
I'm not so sure.
The next thing is to get the table of values,
Oh, okay.
right? We need to know the table, right? And then we can do the graph. We don't jump to the graph right away, right?
Okay.
Okay, so the third step is,
Graph.
no, before the
Oh,
graph.
sorry, I mean the table of values.
Yes, okay. So I need you to remind me, okay? How do we find the table of value? Let's start with the X values first. How do we get all the X values?
Adding the SOS.
Yeah, that's last week, right? We just keep on adding the SOS, but this week we learned something else. We don't just add SOS. What else do we do?
Minus.
No? It could be add, could be minus, but we don't use SOS first. What do we use first?
I'm not so sure.
Okay, let's see. Chris, do you know? How do I find the x values?
The x value is found with the. Don't you like multiply? Wait, the x value is the SOS, right? And then the fifth value is the. Yeah, the x value is with SOS, right?
Yeah, you have to use SOS, but that's for last week, right? But today we learned about the translation. It also affects the x value. Think about how we get the x values. Anyone? How do we start the x values? Do we start with 0? Yeah, Sophie?
You start with C.
Yes, you start with C, okay? Last time we didn't talk about C and D, right? The new thing for today is the starting point. Okay? Starting point. You start with C. The example we had, the C was negative pi. So you start with negative pi and then you use the SOS. You don't use SOS right away. Okay, so that's something I would like you guys to remember for today, right? So you need to start with C. After you start with the C, right, you get the first point, then you use SOS to get other points, right? SOS is to tell you how wide the space, right, between the first one and the next one and the next one, right? That's SOS. Okay, now for the Y values. Last time, right, last week, the Y values we just multiplied by A. Okay, what about today? What do we do? Wayland?
Multiply by D.
Callum, you said?
Multiply by D.
No, we don't multiply by D. Think about how you get the Y value on this table. What did you multiply by? You still multiply by A. A is -2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, after you multiply by -2, what do you do?
Plus or minus the D value.
You always plus D. You don't minus D, okay? What's the value for D here?
-1.
Yeah, so you plus a -1. Plus a -1 is same as -1, right? If you minus D, minus -1 will become +1, they will be different. Okay, so D could be positive, D could be negative. So you just keep on adding D. Okay, so for the Y values, not only you multiply by A, right? So it'll be A times the Y, and then you add the D. So if D is negative, it will make it go down, right? Subtract. If D is positive, it will make it go up. The Y values that I mentioned here is the basic. Okay, the Y. So it depends on the sine or cosine, okay? It could change. Okay, so if you understand everything in this summary, please raise your hand. Make sure you copy this down, okay? So every single question, you just follow those 3 steps. Same with the homework, okay? Change to general form, get the ABCD, find the RST, get a table. Okay, if you finish copying, please raise your hand. And if you have any question, let me know right now, okay? Any part that's not clear, still confused? Okay, so we'll take a break first. After the break, we have 3 more questions that we can practice these 3 steps, okay? And then if we still have time, we can go over a few questions in the homework, right? And try a few more. So I'll see you guys at 11:15, okay? If you have any question, you can stay and ask me.